How do? We're going.
Hey.
Brief introduction. This is Holly. Link in the description. We've done a little chat about your mental health,
Yes.
borderline personality disorder.
Yes.
Cuckoo. Amongst other things. Very sadly, with a lot of people, you had things going on from a young age.
Yeah.
Diagnosed late on.
Yes.
So most of your life, you're pretty screwed in head, not knowing what's going on,
Yep.
and functioning in a very stressful job.
Yes.
That's a fair summing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
I will tell you now, there's people who watch that video, loads, Keith being one of them, who borderline personality disorder, a little bit embarrassed, ashamed, whatever you want to say, who sort of, as it were, come out of the closet and gone, yeah, that's me.
It's got a lot of stigma, definitely, because it's seen as we're very destructive people, and that isn't necessarily the case.
Troubled relationships, everything, very classic. Moves now, you know, to sort of move away from that, and I know people who've been diagnosed borderline personality and other things are now being undiagnosed by a psychiatrist,
and then being diagnosed something else,
and then saying like ADHD or something else,
bipolar or something like that.
They do that because they can, but for me, you know, it's just about recognizing that people struggle to do normal things like live together, have normal relationships, and
just function in life in general. And I think as well, you don't necessarily need a psychiatrist to tell you what's wrong with you. It helped me having a diagnosis, but if you go online, you go, it's BPD is classified by a set of certain behaviors.
Yep.
And it's on a spectrum as well, so you can have it mildly depending on what day it is. You can be high up there or high up there. It's just, you don't need a psychiatrist. The only thing I would say with things like bipolar is that is definitely a chemical imbalance, whereas BPD is more a bit sort of behavioural type illness. But again, it's not something that we can control. It's something that's caused by childhood trauma, which then affects things like, and I'm going to use my fancy words now. I know you don't like them.
No, use all the fancy words now. They're an intelligent bunch of people.
Well, I know they are.
Unlike myself.
So what happens is when your brain is basically developing until you're about 25.
Yep.
Okay. So if you experience trauma at a young age, what that affects is things like your amygdala, which is at the back of your brain, your prefrontal cortex. So your prefrontal cortex is like your emotional brake. That's the one. So when your amygdala kicks in, that's your fight or flight, anxious type thing. The prefrontal cortex then kicks in to go, no, it's cool, don't worry, everything's fine. Well, with people with BPD like me, that's all fucked up. There's no sort of emotional brake. So therefore, when my amygdala's firing off all these neurons into my brain, it's sending me into a complete and utter, like I say, extreme levels of emotion, which my prefrontal cortex can't get back under control.
Can things level that out? Like, so you're in a job like the prison service, you know, it's quite intense and that, you know, when you're at work, you're busy, you're going. So would you say that can level it out a bit? As in, when you're at work, when you was at work as a prison officer, you're distracted.
That's it. Yeah, you're distracted. And I think as well, I think I've said this previously, that when I was helping people, it took away my own pain. So
helping people definitely helps you.
Definitely.
100%. They've done studies.
Yep.
It definitely helps.
Yeah. Yeah. So that sort of, and it was a distraction thing. I always knew, like I say, I'd be at work and then I'd come home at the weekend and I'd binge drink or I'd do other stuff, and, you know, but work, I had to switch into like an actor playing a role. And
I'm going to talk about that later, because I'm going to put something to you later. Right, so prison service college.
Yes.
You wanted to be a copper. But you weren't good enough.
No, I wanted to be in the FBI, remember? I wanted to be Clarice Starling out of Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, never. So,
what do you mean,
prison
never?
service it is, we've bypassed all the other things. How old were you when you went into prison service college?
I was 21, so I finished my degree, I think I graduated in the May of 1998, and I'd applied for the prison service but not heard anything. So I went from graduation into a couple of temporary jobs, helping out with some psychologists in a hospital, and then come July they said you're starting prison service.
And how old were you then?
21.
Okay, so another question for you. How long had lasses been in the prison service or started coming into prison service then?
Oh God, that was
Ish.
1998. Probably about 16 years maybe.
Right. So were there many lasses in the college with you, or was it?
Yeah, I would say it was, but I think that is because I was recruited to work at Style, obviously a female prison. Yep. It was they'd opened a brand new wing, therefore they needed to heavily recruit female staff. So yep. I think that was probably more the reason than the fact that, oh, we're an equal opportunities employer. We you know, it was the fact that we needed a significant amount of female staff.
Next question that leads into.
Go on.
Yeah. So I saw an advertisement recently for female prison. Males, lads need not apply. I know why.
Ooh.
It's
gender balance.
There is in female prisons, lasses prisons, there is a gender balance. Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Purely because there's certain jobs that, and this is me with my old governor's.
We don't want a governor yet.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you're planning a workforce, so for example, reception, you can't have lots of male staff working in reception because of the strip searching.
Well,
and
I will tell you now, although I worked in forensic units before I started my prison career with lasses, which I found very rewarding, heartbreaking and difficult, but it was rewarding. I won't want to work in a female prison. I think you would have to be very careful and cover yourself, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, it was a crazy time working at Style, I have to say. A lot of the men that worked there did well, and a lot of the women do respond well to, you know, a fair and consistent male role model, which is what a lot of them needed. But again, you have to then put your other hat on and say, well, a lot of them have been sexually abused. A lot of them are sex workers, and just to clarify, I'm not using the word prostitute. I don't believe in the word prostitute. It's, you know, it's forced sex work.
I recently interviewed a lass who we said lady of the night. Yeah, she said, you know, when she was on the streets, brass was a
common. That's what the police used to call them.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll go with you on that one. So the other side of the coin, lads' jails. Do you think there should be a balance in lads' jails?
Again, I think the same rules apply. I think that women can have a incredibly positive impact on male prisoners. I think, again, I mean, it's difficult to say because I've seen two types of female prison officer, and I'm probably going to get quite a bit of stick for this.
No, you will get no stick.
But so in my mind, there's two types of female prison officer that works with men. There's the ones like I'd class myself, which is nurturing, caring, wanted to do.
You care for everybody.
Wanting to do the best that they can. And then there's others that just hide behind the uniform and think that because they're a woman, they can get away with speaking to people like shit and treating people like shit and
I will 100% agree. I came across them myself as an officer, you know, half dozen grievances laid against me because running, crying, that sort of thing, which is not to knock. I thought about this the other day because somebody said top 25 officers you've ever worked with. Somebody messaged me, could you name them? I said I would probably get 10 or 15 deadies in and have a think.
And then you would struggle.
But in them, a good few lasses, a lot in the private sector, which, you know, you're very much on your own, young.
Yeah, can I, sorry to interrupt, because this is what I'm like, I've got short-term memory issues, so when I've got something on my mind, I have to say
No, this is what we want.
The issue that I have is that I think women certain women believe that when they work with men, they have to become like men. So they have to be bombastic, and they have to be aggressive, and they have to be disciplined, and they have to, so they forget that on the whole, women, I mean, a lot of us are mothers or partners or whatever,
yep.
On the whole, we are nurturing, caring people that want to look after people.
Yeah.
But you get afraid to show your female side. So you get ingrained in you, whether it be from the bosses or whoever, or your training, that you have to be this type of person. You have to be as good as the men. You have to act like the men. When I started in the prison service, obviously I worked with women, but then when I went to work with men, I very much fitted into that I've got to be like a man type role. And then I kind of had a bit of an epiphany where I just went, do you know what? That isn't me. I'm not a horrible, aggressive person.
We've never talked about this before.
No.
Do you know what? You have hit the nail on the head. I have never ever stood back and thought about it like that. But the lasses I didn't get on with were all like that, trying to be men.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
No,
a lot of them were horrible and nasty and caused a lot more problem. However, I will say they're in the minority, thankfully.
Yes, absolutely. Let's just say that.
I have never thought about it like that. But comes back to my old favourite saying, be yourself.
Be yourself. And don't be afraid to show emotion. I mean, it's, again, drummed into us. Don't show weakness. Don't show emotion. Well, I'm sorry, if I'm sat there doing an act review with a male prisoner who's telling me a fucking horrific story about the abuse that he suffered, and I feel upset, I'm going to show that. I'm going to cry.
I used to.
Yeah, I'm going to cry, and I'm going to.
I didn't cry, obviously.
Oh no, I was always crying at work.
No, but you know, I used to get soft ass Yorkshire get all the time, and you know what? It was like straight over.
Do you know what? When you start to really know yourself, and you're confident in yourself, and you're confident in how you interact with people, I didn't care. And do you know what? Everyone says, oh, you can't touch them. You can't put your hand on it. You can't do anything. Now, I like to think that I developed a good enough relationship with the people that I worked with that it was like, if I'm going to shake your hand. If you're upset, I'm going to put my hand on your shoulder and say, look, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. That's not then me saying, oh, that's an invitation to touch my boobs or something like that. It's just showing a bit of human compassion. But women have got so much power. They have so much, what's the word? They have so much compassion that they can show, but they're scared to show because they're not comfortable in who they are. And I just think, do you know what, like I said, and I think it was an age thing, I just got older, stopped giving a shit about what people thought about me, because I know that I was doing the right thing and a good job.
Yeah, me too.
And that's it. And I didn't need anyone's validation, say, oh, well done because you wrote a policy, or you did this, or you did that. No, I made someone feel better because he was distraught. By putting my arm around him, or when you could give him a cig, a roll up or whatever. You know, just little things like that.
At the end of the day, they're the people they remember as well. I know that now. Absolutely, hundreds of messages. I'll tell you one lad, he's changed his name now, so it's all right to use his name. If he sees this, he'll know I'm talking about him. He's called O'Neill. He was on the healthcare early days when I was on there. He was fucking ill. You know, one of them harming himself. I don't mean self-harm, harming himself. Excrement, you know the ones I mean, the ones who that
are gone.
Yeah, and he assaulted me at one point quite he had a good go, but you know, kept talking to him, but for me he was really far gone. So back end last year, I got a message from this lad. I knew he was straight away. He said, I've changed my name, bum 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 bum. He says, I remember you. He said, it didn't matter what I did to you, you were always kind.
Yeah.
He says, I wouldn't have thought he remembered that because he was so far gone, but they do.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. It's made a lot of things clear. I've never thought about that before. And
like I said, I know we'll probably go on to talk about it later, but I always felt the pressure to be like a man, to behave like a male senior manager. I still think there's a very a strong underlying misogynistic core in the prison service. There's a pressure on women that not only do you have to be as good as the men, you have to be better because you've got more to prove. And it just used to, and I played that game for a while, and then just thought, do you know what, I'm just going to do me, because it's actually tiring being someone else. It's draining.
It's way easier. Take the criticism. I were always happy to take that.
Yeah.
But believe it or believe it not, I do have a girly side, don't I?
Yeah.
Despite.
Yeah.
No, despite my looks, 18 stone 6 foot with
that's why we got on.
But
that's why we got on.
The criticism or the remarks at me were always that. Almost like you're not being the man,
But that's what used to piss me off. So I used to say, criticise my work all you want. If I've done something wrong, tell me. I'll correct it. But don't fucking criticise my personality. I am who I am. That's like saying, oh, you can't be a prison officer because you're fat, or you can't do that. It's like, I know I was loud, and I know I was like sometimes difficult to work with, but I did the right. Everything I did came from the heart, and I always did what I thought was right.
I think the thing is, we had a couple of like sort of argumenty type things about over one or two things. However, it's because she said it how it was, and so did I. Yeah. But you take a step back, and and disagreed, or you've had your two penneth, and then. But
it doesn't mean then that you don't like that person. You just have a difference of opinion.
The best person.
And then at the end of the day, I'll just say, I'm the boss. Do as you tell.
I'm going to give you a person. You tell me. Bertie Bassett. He was the best at that. Ding dongs with him. Yeah. Flat out. Raging, swearing,
red in the face,
and then 2 minutes later, come on, kid.
Give you a hug or whatever, yeah,
brilliant, right. Anyway, I know what you like. Let's get back.
Sorry.
Tell me about Prison Service College. What you thought of training, and does it prepare you? Don't apologise ever.
All right, I won't. Sorry. Right, so it was very different when I joined. So I joined 1998. I think it was a 12-week course then. It was a residential course. They threw us all together, and there was, I think, crikey, a good couple of hundred on my course. All from different establishments all over the country. And it was great. It was a mixture of classroom. We did like old-fashioned PE. We used to have to go for cross-country runs. We used to have to do marching. Classroom work. We used to do control and restraint, a lot of PE. And it was a real, even though it wasn't very hands-on in terms of the prison, what it did do was create a really good team ethos and a really good bond between the people that you were going back to the same establishment with. It gave you time to absorb all the information that you needed to then go and work on the landings. Now they've completely changed it, and it doesn't matter what anyone says. This is a budgetary issue. It's a cost issue. It's not been, this is my personal opinion, it's not been revised to say, oh, this is the best way to train people. This has been done because, it's too expensive to send someone off for 3 months on, a residential thing. Go on.
No, I completely agree. For me, something that every prison officer do, not everyone might like it, but it creates that bond, the tornado training, riot training. Do a shortened version, every prison officer course, get them together. That bit of drill work, like you said, you do a bit of work. The discipline.
The teamwork, the looking out for your team members on the landing.
You'd all do that, cut it down from the full week or whatever to a 2-dayer. When I was at Forest Bank, I think it was only our course did it. They had a guy come in, Dave Bogue, worked at Bellini for 20 years.
Oh, jeez.
Psychologist.
Scotland.
Scotland. Psychologist, was Scots guy. He come in and did an interpersonal skills course. Every prison officer would do that for me. Again, it took you right out of your comfort zone. Not like role playing or you're the prisoner bullshit. At the end of the week, I think everyone think they'd achieved something. You learned something about yourself. It was very challenging. That's one guy coming in, delivering. Again, something else. what do they do now? They do a week CNR and 7 weeks of bullshit classroom, overhead projector, role play.
And then on the landings, following other prison officers around, looking like lost sheep. Instead of, so when we finished our training course, we came back to Style as a massive group, and we were like ready to take the world on. We all were working, a lot of us working on the same unit, and it was great. Do you know what I mean? We set the stall out. However, nowadays, like I say, they attach a couple of them to a prison officer, and these poor guys are like wandering around. They don't necessarily have keys. Prisoners are spotting them, obviously, as targets, as new members of staff, and I just think they're not getting. And what's more importantly, what's also happening is that they're being paired with staff who are not necessarily the best staff to learn from. And this is the issue that I have, and I've always said it to new prison officers. You're going to see good bits, bad bits, or a way that someone, I said, by all means, take a little bit from everyone, but be yourself. But what happens is they put them with staff, and if it's a shit member of staff who doesn't deal with complaints or doesn't, you know, speak to people decently, they think, oh, well, this poor bloody 21-year-old straight out of university thinks, oh, I can speak to them like that. No, you fucking can't. You can't speak to people like that. If that member of staff is speaking to a prisoner in a certain way, it's because he has, well, he's either in the wrong or he's got that relationship.
Dynamic security, staff-prisoner relationships. Exactly. He knows him. He knows how he's going to react. Exactly. Do you know what, love? Right now, I think it's even worse than that, because he's pretty much banged up. They're not going to come out of COVID. They're not going back to a normal regime. Lowy, good man, Mick Lowe, who is now at Hindley. I'll mention him because he's a good. We can mention good people. Yeah. Cracking. He's working with staff who've never done an association. They've been in the job 2.5 years.
It's terrifying. But they've then been promoted as well. Well, this is it. They've been promoted to senior. Well, it's not senior officer now. What is it? Well, supervising officer.
It's whatever they want, isn't it? But the problem is that people aren't getting no mentoring. And the hardest thing about the job, I think, for me, was knowing how to react in a situation. You know, so like, obviously private sector, well, it is what it is, but you know, like when I was on K-Wing, even though I worked at Forest Bank, I thought, right, pretend you've never even been in a prison before and just watch, and you learn how people react and what goes on. They're not going to get that because everyone's banged up, so they don't even get to talk to people. They don't form any relationships right now.
It's a very false environment, isn't it? It's not I mean, I'm glad I wasn't working in the prison during lockdown and COVID. I mean, from what people are telling me, they said that because the lads accepted it, or the lasses, whatever.
The world's accepted it.
Yeah, the world accepted it, so it wasn't too bad. However, exactly what you say, it doesn't bode well for the future, because I tell you what, imagine when they're all out on... I mean, you didn't work at Liverpool, did you?
No.
But I-Wing, so you're talking I-Wing, 230 lads on I-Wing. Association on there was like...
They're not going to have association, love. I will tell you now.
Being in the jungle, you know.
The POA mandates and stuff like that, they're keeping people banged up now because they haven't got the staff to unlock and go back to normal regimes. For me,
crikey,
if the lads were out 2 hours every day, yeah, them relationships started again, it'd bring it down. As it is now...
God, it's scary. Honestly, that terrifies me, because we're just going into warehousing. I mean,
it is. That's what it is.
It's just warehousing, and there's the damage. I mean, let's take prisons out of it. Let's just look at the damage that's been done to the population during lockdown in terms of people losing their jobs, their livelihoods, mental health.
You have to excuse me. I'll have to start it and put that window up. It is burning me out there.
Is it? So think of how the world's been affected.
Yep.
Right, and these are people, and majority of people can function and the inverted commas normal and all the rest of it, but we've all found it really difficult. Imagine them. They've got nothing, and they're now warehoused 23 hours a day with nothing. There's people doing long sentences that are not going to get access to rehabilitation. They're not getting human contact.
Can we not use that word?
What?
Rehabilitation.
Oh, do you not like it?
I just don't think it applies to the prison service.
Yeah.
I think a physio, you go to a physio for rehabilitation, you don't go to prison and get any rehabilitation.
Well, no, that's true. I have to agree with you. All right, let's put it different. Rehabilitative activities, maybe.
Well, my favourite word again is purposeful activity.
Purposeful, yeah.
Now, what somebody decides is purposeful, so I saw a thing, POA, purposeful is education and work. Well, if you're going to education and it's basic skills, or you're doing proper menial tasks, not something that is going to give you the ability to go out and earn money. There's plenty of people I know who've left prison with a couple of degrees and they've served an apprenticeship, so they have a skill and they still can't get a fucking job. So, and what I think what people miss a lot as well is that, I don't know what the percentage is, you give me your version, I'm thinking 80% of people in prison at least are not in for serious offences. I know there's always victims where we could be doing something else.
Absolutely.
20%, throw away the key. There's some, you yourself.
Absolutely.
We aren't stating the obvious. And what we're doing in the future, we're building more prisons.
I know. It's. I mean, I've got really strong views on how the prison service is run and the lip service that's given to things like rehabilitation. I mean, right. So I'll give an example of sex offenders. I mean, there was the SOTP, Sex Offender Treatment Programme, which I believe has now been stopped.
Yeah, it's been binned because it was shite and it did
doesn't
nothing.
work. So this is my opinion. You cannot change. Say you're attracted to women. I'm attracted to men.
Yeah.
That's that. That's who I'm attracted to.
Yeah.
If you're telling a paedophile who's attracted to a 5-year-old girls that he has now got to be attracted to grow, it's not going to happen. So all the SOTP did was help them manage their urges. Those urges never go. But we invested millions and millions into trying to, inverted commas, rehabilitate sex offenders. But like you said, there's other stuff. There's people, there's low-level crimes, and like you say, there's no such thing as a victimless crime, but there's low-level crimes that are being committed that are being, these people are being sent to prison when they could be diverted elsewhere and do something a bit more purposeful in the community.
Yep.
But it's not happening, and it's just the revolving door policy. Sentencing guidelines are all up the swanny as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
One of our greatest failings is women in prison. These are we just see the criminal, or the courts just see the criminal, and they don't see the history, they don't see the abuse, they don't see the lives that these women are living. I mean, there are lots of countries around the world who have really good examples of how the female prison system should be run. I'll give Canada as an example. So what they do in Canada, and anyone's free to correct me if I'm wrong, because my knowledge might be a little bit outdated, but Canada as a country are very aware that one of the greatest things that we can do for female offenders is maintain that family contact, maintain that bond with their children. Because I know from my perspective, when I've been feeling like I'm going off the rails, having my son has sort of grounded me, gave me a focus. So what they do in Canada is they have more regional, smaller units, not warehousing, smaller regional units, so that women can, and Canada's a bloody massive country, isn't it? So they can be closer to their loved ones. So they're smaller, it's the work that can be done with them is more intense, and they get access to their children, their loved ones, etc., etc. Because that's they say that one of the paths to reducing reoffending is family contact, and it is. But what we do, because we've got so few female prisons here, we just wang them all the way around the country. They could be 200 miles from their kids and their loved ones. And it's then the pressure you've got to think that we're putting on the families of offenders as well. It's not just the offenders that are paying the price. Their families have not committed an offence. but they're the ones that are having to pay for it as well. The children
are having to pay for it. A lot of it is low-level crime, isn't it?
Exactly, particularly with the women. I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, some of the women I used to work with, God love them, you know, would have 100 convictions, you know, but it was all shoplifting, drug-related, etc., etc. There isn't enough drug rehabilitation that's out there. I think that is one of the issues.
There's plenty of examples out there worldwide now. Drug strategies in this country, it's just shite.
They don't work. I don't know how long ago it was. The drug guy who was the drug czar, he resigned from the government because he just said, you know, we've got it all wrong. The way we are going about it is all wrong.
Of course it is.
And we're criminalising people for, I mean, I'm a strong believer, you know, addiction is an illness. You're telling me that people choose to be addicted to heroin? They don't. It's a lifestyle, it's a coping mechanism.
Well, for me, that is a vast majority. If you look, you've said about childhood trauma, this is why people should be in schools, talking about prisons, drugs, abuse and everything else, educating kids. You've hit a coping mechanism. The amount of people I now know. So prison, for me, this is what I say, that's prison, yeah? So I see people in there, you see people at the worst, you get an understanding, you think, well, you know, they're not all bad. When you actually see this side of it, where they've come from.
Exactly, and what you know, I used to...
That's not making excuses.
No, I have people calling me, you know, a lefty and a liberal and this, that and the other. I'm not. I'm a human being who's seen every side of the
humanity.
You know, and yeah, there are the bad. I mean, it's difficult. I like to, even the really evil ones, I like to give them a chance. But there are some people that are just out and out evil, who are never ever going to change. And
definitely.
You've got the Mark Bridges of this world who we dealt with.
Definitely.
You know, I could list off a net, you know, but on the other side of that, there's people that are desperate. There's people that are shells of a human because they've had the fucking shittest life going. And so that could have been me. It's only for the fact that I was brought up in a middle class family and went to university and all the rest of it. Had I not had that background and had a different, you know, lived in a different area or something, I could have quite easily gone down the other way. And it just, you know, what's that saying? Judge ye not lest you be judged yourself, or something like that. So yeah, I think the system is fundamentally broken. Not that they'll tell you, because they'll produce all these shiny reports that say, oh, we're doing this, this, this and this.
Well, I think now what the prison service is doing is a good job of covering a lot up. Individual governors, individual prisons are covering a lot up. The shortfallings, you know, the corruption, the worst corruption for me is a management that are covering things up that are happening in their prison. Yeah? What we see in the press is officers who get corrupted or whatever, or
on an individual basis.
Some are opportunists. Yeah. However, what you don't see is, you know, what's being covered up at higher level.
I'll tell you now, and I'm not going to name any names, I'm not going to say any prisons, I'm not going to do anything like that, but I know where one place at the moment where there is massive fraud going on. But I've got no interest in whistleblowing, or, you know, got no interest in being involved in that ever again. But no. I know what goes on. I know what goes on behind closed doors. I know how things are stitched up, how people are stitched up, how figures are twisted, how you know, the bullying that goes on, the targets that you kill yourself to achieve that are you know, what's the word? Unobtainable, whatever.
Fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Fucking impossible. Right, listen. I want to get...
We're just completely going off on a tangent.
Right, listen. So you've come out of college. Yeah, you are a young 21-year-old. First nick.
Wormwood Scrubs.
Right, tell me about that. Can you remember your first day?
Oh, it's awful. I walked on the landing.
You know,
it's fine. I can laugh about it now.
Good.
So I walked on, so I'll have to describe what it looked like. My uniform was mint because it was brand new.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was, obviously didn't look much different to how I look now, but same hair and everything. But I had it all piled on top of my head, all smiley and bright, little bit of makeup on, nothing like major makeup because you weren't allowed to like go full makeup.
Yeah, just a bit of eye makeup.
Just a little bit, just that. And I was little rucksack on, bouncing in. Absolutely shitting myself because it's fucking Wormwood Scrubs, which had the worst reputation. So just before I had joined, about 60 staff had been suspended for brutality on the segregation unit. So that is why we all went to Wormwood Scrubs on detached duty, because they had I think there was me and one other person. It was like, in fact, it might have just been me that got sent to Wormwood Scrubs. I think everyone else on my sort of section went to Brixton, and I went to Wormwood Scrubs. And I walked in with my backpack, walked onto the wing, was shown where to go. The PO was obviously just the principal officer, was this old long in the tooth guy, and he just looked me up and down. He went, "And they've sent you to us?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm a qualified prison officer." And he went, "There's my office." He said, "Go in there, make me a brew, and don't come out." And I was like, right, okay. When I did come out on the landings, when I was allowed out on the landings, so I'd speak to people because staff wouldn't speak to me. There were no female staff there. It was all male staff there. Staff wouldn't speak to me. So who am I going to speak to? I'm a sociable person. So I'd lean over the railings and I'd talk to the prisoners. I wasn't allowed to do that. I got pulled in for that. You're flirting with them. And I'm like, and so I'm obviously really can't. I'm like, I'm not. I'm just talking to them. Well, don't. Right. Okay. So that's still.
Is this, we're talking first weeks?
Within the first week, yeah.
So
okay.
Are you already thinking about handing your keys in?
No, because I'm a bit of a dig my heels in type of person, and also it was really good money, and I couldn't afford to leave. It was good pay at the time. So I thought, no, come on. I was pretty resilient at that age.
Yeah.
So within a week, so no one would speak to me. It was just horrific. At lunch times, you'd sit in the staff room and they'd put porn on in the staff room. So me being me, not wanting to sit there watching porn in front of a load of male staff, I'd take my little butty box and sit down the end of the wing on my own.
Yep.
And there was and I think it was, oh God, I don't know, I think I was cold or something one day and I didn't have a jumper. And this, I just remember him, don't remember his name, just remember him as a person, like an older prison officer, maybe in his 50s, 60s, came and gave me his jumper. And just like that little act of kindness, I was just like, oh, that's nice. Then I remember one shift, they sent me to work on the seg. So we're talking Wormwood Scrubs seg here.
Yep.
I'm like fresh in the job, month in the job, shitting myself. Staff have been suspended from it. So as I remember, and I might be wrong, there was either a staircase or a lift. So I believe, as I remember, and I've got a really shit memory anyway, but I believe visits was on top of the sec. So there were a stream of men coming down to see me because I was and one of them actually said, "Oh, we've been told there's a new woman on or something. We've come down to see
fresh
you."
meat.
Fresh meat, something like that. So not only am I dealing with, I'm fucking terrified of the prisoners. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't been taught to work on a seg. I'm just literally going around and unlocking the doors that I've been told to unlock. And I've now got a stream of men coming down, trying to chat me up. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's because I'm gorgeous or anything that. It's because I was the fucking only female there, and it's like, do you know what I mean? So it's the only pig at the party. So it was like
only pig at the party. So what you've said, right? Being scared of prisoners, I was scared of prisoners. I had all the feelings you had, but obviously people weren't coming and looking at me. So we've discussed before. There's other lasses I know who were in at that time, and some before, and it was a very Just sexist, chauvinist.
Yeah, it was. Racism. I observed firsthand racism. And what you've got to think about, the London jails as well are really multicultural. I mean,
yeah, I would imagine.
We have no concept up north how diverse and multicultural they are down south.
Well, you only have to look at London, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah. Look at it.
If you look at London and the population. So, sorry, carry on.
No, go on. Go on.
No, I'm just, you know, some of that has gone, but underlying, I think, even when I left, there still is that macho culture. I think people not necessarily become more PC, but definitely as the prison service progressed, you know, they're looking at their audience.
Yeah. I mean, I've got thoughts on this. Sorry to interrupt you again. You know what I'm like.
Yeah.
There's a difference. So, as I was finishing at Liverpool a couple of years ago before I moved into a job at London, there'd been a POELT course. POELT being new prison officer for people that don't know. There'd been a POELT course, and a load of them had been suspended because they were on a WhatsApp group, and someone had reported this WhatsApp group because it was spreading racist and things against people with disability, and then it was also posting videos of fucking new staff prancing around naked in the hotel rooms and stuff like that.
For fuck's sake, come on.
Exactly. So there's a massive difference between, and don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these cancel culture people who say, oh, you can't say this and you can't say that. However, there is a line of decency, isn't there? And there is a line of what's dark humour, which we all know, and which we all love, and which we all have a bit, crossing into downright fucking wrong, rude, you know, the racist, the homophobic, the stuff like that. And yes, on the surface things have improved, but it's obviously still going on under the surface.
Well, again, people do pick their audience. Like, people have asked me, did you observe any racism? No, I didn't, but I would think pretty much people knew what I were like, and other people, not just me. A little thing that I say quite often now, it's very easy to stand in a crowd. It's not so easy to stand on your own.
Oh, yeah.
So I think a lot of people in the prison service, not bad people, good people, stood in the crowd and were fearful of standing on their own.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in that position. Oh, just had a leaf fall on me. I've been in that position, and again, I don't really like going into massive amounts of details, but I remember at Liverpool prison, and I was brand new principal officer, again, one of only a couple female managers, highest female uniform rank in the prison. They'd prided themselves on the fact that the last female PO they'd got rid of in 3 months because she cracked.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I've got to do at least 3 months. I've got to, you know, I've got to prove my mettle.
Is that your target?
Yeah. So it just happened. I even now I'm really uncomfortable talking about it.
Well, don't talk about it.
No, I want to, because I think it's a really important thing. So I had a sex offender wing, and I had the substance misuse wing.
You were managing them?
I was managing, so I had something like 400 prisoners and about 70 staff across the two wings. I'm a new female PO. I've got to set my stall out for what I believe is right and wrong.
That is quite a big, isn't it? You know,
in charge of it all.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
I had 6 managers working under me. Quite a lot of them long in the tooth. A couple new ones, newly promoted, that were on my sort of level and on my page and willing to.
What, normal?
Well, as normal as I can get.
Yeah.
But no, had the same sort of ethics and morals and stuff like that.
Integrity.
But then I had a couple of more long in the tooth staff that had been at Liverpool for a long time.
Yeah.
So this one day I could hear something. So my office was on the sex offender wing. I could hear a ruckus, I'll call it, going on the ones down way across. But I could hear something, and there were some new prison officers on the wing that day, and one of my senior officers was stood at the door at the cell of this prisoner, who was renowned for being self-harmer, poor coper, vulnerable. And when I say vulnerable, not just in terms of his offence, I mean vulnerable as in just the way he presented, quite weak and a target, let's say. And he was, I'm not justifying at all, but something had happened that had kicked the senior officer off to start laying into him. And he was surrounded by a number of brand new staff. This goes back to what I was saying about new staff observing how people are treated. And he was in his face, pointing his finger, effing and blinding, and he called him fucking Fruit Loop. And I just went, I can't have these new staff. And bearing in mind, I fucking knew from that point onwards I've got to set my stall out.
And you also knew that you won't be standing in the crowd.
Exactly. This was my time to stand out on my own.
Yeah.
Anyway, I called the senior officer away, called him into the office, and dealt with it how I felt that I should dealt with, i.e., don't be speaking to prisoners like that, especially not be speaking to prisoners like that in front of new staff. Yeah. I expect better. Gave the chat. I dealt with it my way. To me, it didn't need any disciplinary action, didn't need anything like that. Yeah. I'd had the chat, set my stall out, that was that. He accepted it, I accepted it, situation done. However, I'm a new principal officer, so I want to check that I've done what I think's right. So I went to my manager, the governor, a new governor. I told him, next thing, investigation. This guy was under investigation. I can't remember if he was suspended or not. So you can imagine, I'm there, brand new. I'd stood up to this guy, but I dealt with it. They then forced me into an investigation and said, you've got to put, you've set your stall out now, you've got to stand by what you've said and what you've done. So I did.
You know, that's what's happened to me at Strangeways, don't you?
Yeah, no one spoke to me for months. I'd walk into the office, people would turn their back on me because he'd be seen as a grass. Yeah. I used to sit in my car sobbing, and then I'd put my big girl brave pants on and I'd walk back into the jail and I'd be the same. And it took months and months and months. It took about 9 months for people.
What happened to the guy?
He kept his job.
Did he understand what had happened?
Yeah, because, I mean, I was applauded by senior management. Senior management thought I was great because I'd stood up to this guy who they perceived as a bully. But I said in the investigation, yes, he did wrong. However, he's got some good aspects to him as well. You know, let's balance that out with the fact that he can.
I've said that's something else that I used to miss. That some, don't get me wrong, the tiniest, smallest percentage of people I with it, and it was tiny, was scum. Mm. Some of the bad ones, not every day were bad. They would, you know, do good and do the right thing. Yeah. Like I say, a lot of it, I think, was opportunity.
Yeah.
So.
I think it was a bit of, in his case, it was a bit of bravado. He picked his target who wasn't going to fight back. I think he was, you know, maybe a bit of pride in front of the new staff. But it's hard, and people don't realise how much that affected me. And don't get me wrong, off the back of that, one of the governors that conducted the investigation actually promoted me a few years later, off the back of the fact that I'd stood alone. I think on my own.
I probably think the managements that were above you at that time were a good management, because what I found at Strangeways was not everyone, but the management, when, you know, we had that investigation surrounding K-Wing, saw me as problematic because of what I'd done.
Yeah.
The way people spoke to me, you know, I've said this a lot of time, but one of the governors, who I did like, said, "We've never had this before." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he went, "Oh, it don't matter." I said, no, tell me what you're talking about. He started walking off. I went, "Gov, come here." I thought, right, I'm having you, not taking me on. No percentage, that, is it? However, what you talked about, you mentioned the word whistleblowing. For me, it still doesn't exist in the prison service. If you stand on your own, away from the crowd, you'll get smashed down. It don't exist. You're seen as a bad person, a grass, and all these things. And we've talked about grassing before. Doing the right thing does not make you a grass.
Yeah.
Not putting up with people, bullying people and things like that, doesn't make you a grass. But that's the way you get portrayed.
Yeah. And yet we're then trying to impress upon prisoners that they shouldn't engage like that. And it's just for me, it's all a case of your personal morals and where your heart is and how you view people and how you treat people. And I think people go into it, I went into it for a career, people just go into it as a job now, and it's not, let's face it, it's not a great job now. It's not as many opportunities to diversify and go into different areas.
You'd be surprised how many people message me thinking about doing it, ask for advice. I never put nobody off. Ask them about family situation, where they've got somebody they can fall back on, you know, are they single and things like that. I've never put anyone off from joining that job. Some have joined, some have left. One guy, nice message last night, he said, I've been watching the channel for a long time now. So I've been at job 3 years. He says, I have a lot of bad days, I struggle with how it is. However, you know, forewarned is foreprepared or whatever. And I don't think the training is preparing them. Anyway, I'm going to get back to your story now.
Can I have a bit of your water, by the way?
Yeah, of course you can.
My mouth's like the Sahara.
Of course you can. What I want you to do, I want to talk about you being a governor, but I want to just, from your Wormwood Scrubs, give us your promotion, you know, where you were, how you went about it, that sort of thing, just to give us an idea.
I know exactly the point that I first started thinking about promotion. I'd been in the job.
Can I open that a little bit?
Yeah, of course you can. I'd been in the job about 2 years. I was back at Style, and I'd been seriously assaulted by a prisoner called Sarah Flanagan, and she absolutely kicked my arse. And there was a senior officer, and bearing in mind she's kicking my arse. Then I got saved by another officer. I got saved by some prisoners first, and then the other officer and myself managed to get her under control and restrained her. This senior officer stood behind a gate, fucking terrified, wouldn't come out and help us. That is a no-no, isn't it? You know yourself.
For me, it is. They're telling them now, if you feel threatened, you feel scared. What? Of course they are telling them. I know they're telling them. We had him in Strangeways when I was there. There was a lad on G-Wing who was told, and he acted it out every time. if you fear for your safety, go to a sterile area, guys. Prisoners can't get there without keys. And he did. Yeah, there were a lot of incidents on G-Wing. He did not attend.
Oh my God.
His manager went down the disciplinary route, and he got told, and no
I know.
Yeah, he told you not going. Forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. You know, if he's scared, yeah, that's what we're saying to him.
Do you know what? That I'd had my head kicked in, and I was in a bad way. We were restraining her, and I'm asking him for help. All the other prisoners were fine. It's not like there was a riot.
It's a male senior officer.
Yeah.
A lad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not like there was a riot going on. There was one woman being restrained by two of us, and he wouldn't come out. And after I'd had my sick, and I came back relatively quickly, considering that I'd injured, I had soft tissue damage around my neck, which was really painful. So I only had 6 weeks off, which I thought was, you know, and some of that was due to fear of coming back. So it was a mental factor.
Yeah, always. Yeah. There's always that, definitely.
Yeah. So I came back and I thought, he's being paid fucking $7,000 more than me. And
was it that much at that time?
Yeah.
Because over the years it got whittled away.
Yeah. And I thought, he's fucking shit. I can do a better job than that. So I did. I started putting myself forward and I think I got a temporary promotion to senior officer not long after that.
Yeah.
And then I started working for my exams, and I think I failed my first exam, got put back down to officer, but then passed it then the next year. So I became a senior officer at Style, and I was a senior officer there for about, on and off for about 4 years.
So you had a good grounding at that level then? Very
much so. And believe me, a senior officer at Style, the principal officers didn't do anything. The senior officers managed the show, and you could have 4 or 5 major incidents going on. One weekend we had 90 self-harm / suicide attempts. 90. So you'd have a fire in the seg, you'd have someone trying to hang themselves on the wing, you'd have a fight going on, and you had to manage all night shifts. The nights used to be, because that's when that's when all the lunatics came alive, and like it was just so. I felt I had really good grounding, not only in terms of dealing with difficult issues, difficult prisons. My act knowledge was good, you know, or a really good grounding. Started going for principal officer boards after I'd been a senior officer and I had some.
Explain just quickly what a board is so people understand.
So a board, to get to senior officer, you had to do 2 assessments, but then to get to a principal officer, you have to do what's called a board, which is just a panel interview, effectively.
Yep.
So you have to do well, I lied. So you have to do a competency-based application form, so a written statement demonstrating your competencies. You then have a panel interview. It's generally with the governor and 2 others, maybe like someone from HR, and then basically you've got about 45 minutes and they either ask you on your competencies or ask you how you deal with certain situations, and then basically say there's 10 of you that go for the post, they just rank you 1 to 10, and say there's 2 jobs, 1 and 2 get the job.
Sometimes it's job for boys, as in the best person. Yeah, of course it is.
But I never had jobs for the boys.
No, I'm not saying that. I've no doubt you got there merit. Right, I'm going to ask you a question now.
Go on.
How many officers did you work with that would have made cracking senior officers?
Oh God, loads.
And they didn't go for it. For me, the exam, the board, they didn't want it, and some of them couldn't pass it.
Yeah.
Which, for me, you know, in engineering, it should be no different in prison service. You got recognised for your talent.
On the job ability.
Got management, you know, because people see you see how they are.
The role play in the JSAC, people hate that. They freeze. Exams are difficult. I'm not good at exams. What you just learn to do is you don't learn to be a senior officer. You learn how to pass the
exam. Yeah, which is wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
However, you can bypass that now because they're that short that people have told me, a lad, I still talk to him now, he's probably 3.5 years in job, started talking in the beginning of lockdown. Sam, new officer, 21, just got me senior officer after 2 years, no one else applied for it.
You weren't allowed to apply for it.
He's still
for 2 years
speaks to me now. You know it has been a tough grounding for him, but
I mean, do you know what, I'm not going to call anyone because
really?
No, yeah.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah, no. Go for a promotion because do you know what? There's some ones that you thought not so sure about, and then they've shone. Do you know what I mean? They've shone. But then there's people that I've had to promote, that I've interviewed, that I've had to promote, who I know are fucking shit.
Tell me this: why?
But they've done well on the board, and because I'm fair and it's all based on the board, you have to promote.
Tell me then, because this is my big beef with the prison service. Why? Senior officer, principal officer, governors, why, when they fuck up, gross misconduct, you know, things that normal people get sacked for, why they don't deal with them? Because what happens is, if you get a shit senior officer, nobody wants, they end up tending to get an easier job. Principal officers, again, if they're shit at their job, they don't put them on the Oscar, they don't deal with them, they don't manage them, they don't demote them.
No.
And governors, the amount of governors who should have, but again, you know, caught with the pants down, literally.
Yeah.
Gross misconduct at prison, in office, with a young lady, caught with the pants down, should be sacked, fired. Me as an officer, I know that happened, and you just think, you know, why are you not dealing with that?
So, first of all, I think despite as hard as we think we are, and we're all good at telling prisoners what to do and putting them in the place,
well, not everyone is.
90% of people that are in the prison service in a management level don't like conflict. They like to be liked. They need the staff on side. They need the staff to do what's it. You can be. I think that the balance is being able to get staff on side, but also set your stall out and pull staff in when you need to. I'm
going to give you a name.
Go on.
Bertie Bassett. Yeah. It's right though, isn't it? He is your model manager.
Yeah.
At every level, shouty, sweary, angry, at prisoners and staff, but get staff on side.
Yeah.
You know, I said it so many, you know, on K-Wing, we'd have a proper bowling match 2 minutes later. Do us an early start tomorrow, yes. Cheers.
Yeah.
That's twice I've done that. Yeah.
was it last time we were talking about him going on the netting on the Cat 8? Yeah. That was so funny. But anyway, so yeah, should we go back? Yeah, we'll go back to principal officer. So I went for loads of boards, and because I wasn't in with the in crowd.
What nick were you at then?
Style.
Style. Oh, still at Style.
Yeah. So went for loads of boards, had lots of shockers. Eventually pulled my shit together, went for a board at Liverpool, smashed it, absolutely smashed it. Didn't know anyone there. I'd been for a walk around and got on with staff and had a bit of a laugh and stuff like that. Introduced, was really proactive, introduced myself to people and stuff like that. Smashed the board, got the job. Then everyone at Style was saying, oh, you're not going to do well at Liverpool. They don't have female managers there. Oh, it's a completely... I remember the deputy governor of Style pulling me in and saying, I think you're making a mistake.
Envy and jealousy are the worst by far.
But trying to pull me down.
Yeah, because you've done good, you've done well, people get envious and jealous.
And I took a risk. It was a big risk because a lot of people just stayed at Style. But it was a big risk to go from Style to Liverpool. You could not get two more different.
No, different environments.
Different environments. But I was up for it. And do you know what? I'd been for that walk around Liverpool. I like Scousers. I like I liked the feeling, and the jail wasn't great. Let's get it right. It was an old Victorian jail, but I loved it. I got a really good vibe from the place. I got a really good vibe from the staff, from the other managers, and I just thought, do you know what? This is a place where I could probably fit in.
Yeah.
And I did, and I had my ups and downs and my bumps and all the rest of it, but it was a really good grounding career-wise. But I do remember sort of one of my first shifts as orderly officer. A principal officer at Liverpool, and I went down the second. There was one of the old long in the tooth principal officers that had been there for 100 years, and I came down. There was an incident going on, and I came down and I had my jacket on so he didn't see my epaulets, so with my 2 pips on, and I went down. He went, what are you doing here? I went, well, I'm orderly officer. And he was like, since when have you been a PO? And I showed him my pips, and and then he went, what do you know about managing incidents? You've just come from Style. I went, mate, mate. I said, this is nothing. I said, I could deal with one incident on my head, blindfolded, with the hands tied behind my back all day long. And I think once I'd proved myself, and you do have to, I think men get accepted a lot quicker, but as a woman, you very much have to prove yourself, particularly when you're dealing with sending teams into really high-risk CNR incidents. I mean, we had the lot there. And you're making like quite cutting life death decisions, and I think as long as staff see you as fair, decisive, willing to stand by your decision, and I'm not saying that every decision always made was wrong, but as long you make that quick calculation in your mind of the pros and cons and all the rest of it. And I think one of my skills, and this is difficult for me to say because I put myself down all the time, but I think one of my skills was dealing with incidents under pressure and being able to make sound decisions for both staff and the prisoners.
I think very good management. Again, I've done a lot of hiring and firing in engineering companies and that, and I've hired people who had no skills for the job, but when you're doing it, you realise who are good people and bad. And I'm quite sure if the management were good, you speak well for yourself. It's quite obvious who's the best for it. And if there's none of that, jobs for the boys, somebody's all penciled in, you're going to get a job.
Yeah. And it was good. I felt like I'd really achieved something because I'd done it off my own back. I remember someone saying to me once, because I did get promoted quite quickly, and then I got promoted to temporary governor quite quickly as well.
Still at Liverpool?
Yeah, at Liverpool. And I remember someone saying to me, oh, bet you've slept your way to the top. And I went, if it was that bloody easy, I said I'd be a #1 governor by now. I said, unfortunately.
Do you know people who have slept their
way?
Right, we'll move swiftly on.
Yes.
We'll move swiftly on.
Yes, I do, and they're fucking shit at their job.
Yeah, of course they are. So let's talk about that transition to full-time governor then.
Yeah. Oh God. So I did have an opportunity to stay at Liverpool, but I'm always one to sort of test myself, or I was always one to test myself.
Good girl. Good girl.
In
life, you have to challenge. For me, you have to challenge yourself. You have to go out of that comfort zone. and that's what it's about.
And that's what I did. So I went from Liverpool on a permanent position to Wymott in 2009. So just Wymott's quite a unique jail. So just for people that don't know, or when I was there, it's about, I can't remember how many prisons, but it's a category C jail divided into two. So one half is completely sex offenders, which I never particularly wanted to work with. I haven't got any desire to work with them. I find them difficult for me personally. And the other side was just a standard Cat C, but they were quite challenging.
Did never the twain shall meet, was it?
Never the twain shall meet. Okay. It was separated by a corridor that went down the middle. They had separate everything. And so I went there, and do you know what? I just found it after Liverpool. I really miss Liverpool. When I went there, I was like, because nothing happened. When I say nothing,
people won't understand that.
You go from like the busy environment of Liverpool where there's loads going on and there's incidents and this, that, and the other, to a jail where people are preparing to be released almost effectively, or to go to Cat D. The sex offenders were very quiet, unless you're involved in the public protection side of things. In terms of, I mean, later on in my career I got really interested in child protection and public protection, but at the time that wasn't my bag. So that side was really quiet. Nothing ever happened. There might be the occasional bit of self-harm. The Cat C side was a bit more, but it was still, everyone went to work or they went to the programs and stuff like that. So because it was quite quiet, or in my opinion quite quiet, it then gave managers the opportunity to micromanage. And I'm like, I'm not used to being micromanaged. I'm used to being told, that's your 2 massive wings. Like I said, I was at 26, 27, I was running 2 big wings, 400 prisoners and 70 staff. I don't need to be told how to manage. Tell me what your objectives are, tell me what we're working on, point me, shoot me, and then I'll go. But they micromanaged. Oh, is that my Amazon delivery? I've ordered a Himalayan salt lamp and a diffuser.
Fantastic. No cannabis oil or anything?
No, nothing like that. So I just found it really quiet. People micromanaged, and I was really quite unhappy there. Not like stress, just unhappy. So at the time I thought, I was with my ex-husband then, and we were trying for a baby, and I thought, do you know what, might sound awful to people, I said, now's the right time. So I reduced my hours, went part-time, got pregnant, ended up having 13 months off, and obviously I was on restricted duties when I was pregnant. And then coming back from that, they'd just done Fair and Sustainable, which is when they reduced the numbers of governors. And I went for an interview at Manchester to
Strangeways.
Strangeways. Sorry, I do the politically.
It'll always be. Sorry, prison service. It will always be Strangeways.
And Richard Vince was the governor, and
Dickie Vince, top man.
Exactly. I just thought, that is the man that's going to take you over the trenches, and I really wanted to work with him. And I walked around Manchester, never worked in high security again, wanted to push myself, get another feather in my cap or whatever. But I got the same feeling walking around Manchester as I did all the years before.
What year was that?
That was 2012. And I loved my time at Manchester. Didn't love some of the governors there. There's certain one that ended up resigning when he should have been sacked or even jailed, but hey ho. So I had my trials and tribulations there. But what I found from there is, it's like meeting people like you, meeting people like brothers, like people that are really connected with. Kerry, I'm still friends with Kerry, people that I keep in touch with. And I had a really good time at Manchester. I enjoyed the work. I felt that I was given a good level of responsibility. I felt that I was respected for my knowledge, and I do believe that I made some good changes. And what phased me, it didn't phase me because I dealt with it, but some of the stuff we dealt with on healthcare, between the healthcare and the seg, and you're thinking, shit. So that guy, when he, oh God, when I think we'd moved into the seg and they wanted to put him in a body belt, but he was bleeding out, but he was being, and you're like, the doctor, I've got the doctor saying to me, if you put a body belt on him, you're going to increase his blood pressure and he's going to bleed out even quicker. But then I've got saying, but he's fighting staff, but he's got to go to hospital because he's going to die anyway. But he's covered in blood. I can't send staff into. So you were literally.
We're talking about the Cat A.
Yeah.
You know why he ended up down the seg, don't you?
Oh, I can't remember now.
It was a governor. It was a governor, right? Believe it or believe it not, and you'll know this. Sometimes you can't treat all prisoners the same. Some you get away with something. Sometimes you have to sort of take a back step or whatever. He challenged the governor. He says, "Why are you taking me to the seg? You know, I'm on a document. You don't want me down there. You know, just tell me what you want me to do or whatever, and I'll do it." He said, "I'm taking the seg because I can." He told him. He said, "Take me to the seg. Yeah, I'm going to bleed out, and you will have to organise a hospital escort to take me out." So the governor's like, "Don't tell me." You know, he had a chance, but the governor went straight to top level.
Was it a governor that was senior to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I know.
He escalated it to what you get taught.
Guess who had to deal with the fallout? Muggins.
Yeah.
So when I was duty governor in charge of the prison.
Yeah.
He sauntered down, and I said to him, right, I've got the doctor on one side, I've got the ambulance crew here, the ambulance crew refusing to take him because he's violent, If I put the body belt on him, have you explained to people what a body belt is?
Body belt, it literally is a thick, well, some vary, but thick leather belt with cuffs attached like that. So you like that, what the people could see, can't move. However, this lad has got out a body belt on prison transport, you know that. And he also almost bled himself to death in a body belt
and he's violent. So what do you do? So you have to protect staff, you have to save his life.
Preserve life,
always. That's the thing. And I'm there going, and the doctor's going, he's going to bleed out, he's going to bleed out. And the pressure that I felt, and I've got a range of staff looking at me, and I've literally got minutes to make decision, not an hour. I can't go sit in a room and take an hour. I'm surrounded by staff. I've got the doctor there saying he's going to die. This governor came down, senior to me, but I was the duty governor, and I turned to him, as you do with your colleagues, what do you think of this? What would you do? I'm thinking of doing this, I'm thinking of doing that. And he absolved himself of all responsibility and went, I'm not duty governor, that's your decision.
That governor said to me, he says, will this lad do what he says? I said, quite definitely. Because he smashed his cell up as well, didn't he? The special.
Yeah.
He says, has he got that capability? I says, more than capable. I says, he'll write your seg off.
It was horrible. I mean, I can't exactly remember what the conclusion was, apart from the fact was
we took him out and
we got him to hospital and saved his life. But I just remember feeling like it's the loneliest job in the world, making that final decision, because even the doctor can't make the decision. You're making the doctor's advising you, but you're making the decision. I think that was what hit me.
It's always got to be preserve life in it. I know it's not that easy. Because
particularly with Cat A's,
especially with Cat A taking him out or whatever.
Because then you've got the public safety to think of as well. So you're potentially preserving the life of the public. But anyway, so in terms of my experience at Manchester, I had some of the best times in my career and some of the worst times in my career. You know, one of the things that really sticks with me is when we were dealing with Mark Bridger for 9 months. You know what I mean? And at the end of that, we were just left.
10 months exactly.
10 months, yeah.
Yeah, I know how long it was.
We were just left. We didn't have any debrief. We didn't have any. And there was one thing that stuck with me from the trial. Because obviously we knew quite a lot. I mean, we knew that forensic evidence had been found months before anyone else. You can't talk to anyone about that. No. You can't tell him you know that. You've got to still treat him. So that really affected me, and obviously I had a small child at the time as well, so again it's sort of all going through my head. And one of the sort of things from the trial that stuck with me was apparently on the inside of his car window, there were small handprints. So, and that, after it was all finished, it was like, all I was told was basically get him to trial, stop him from killing himself. That was it. That was my brief.
Well, that's what it told us on healthcare.
Yeah, that was my brief. But never mind all the fucking emotional bullshit and manipulation and lies and everything that went with dealing with him. And then at the end of it, knowing stuff that you can't talk to your family about, you don't
want to talk to your family about.
You don't want to talk to your family about, you know, and we were left at the end of that with no debrief, no psychological support, no how are you, how do you feel after that. Same with Dale Cregan, you know, we again, both of us, didn't we, worked with him. I was his case manager for a long time.
Yeah.
And you just, you know, at one point they said, oh, you might have to give evidence in court. I was like shitting myself. And they said, oh, the police might need to speak to you in case you need like anti-petrol bomb letterboxes and patrols. And I'm like, what? This is like, I'm just in the prison trying to do my job, trying to keep people alive.
Yeah.
I've got a small child at home, and then all of a sudden, but again, not like, are you okay? Are you okay, hon? It's just like
the old macho bollocks.
Get on with it, yeah.
There's no duty of care, no aftercare, no nothing, not in any of it. Your colleagues are the only, well, I tell you what, I remember you a good few times, probably a weekend when you were duty governor, coming and having your debriefs on healthcare.
Yeah.
With tears, with brothers and that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is.
We did it all for each other informally.
Yeah, very much so.
I remember the safe custody office. When I had a great group in there.
Just say what safe custody is.
So safe custody is the department that deals with reducing violence, self-harm, putting in place procedures to prevent suicide, things like, basically sort of like overall well-being, mental health as well, sort of comes under there a little bit.
Yeah.
I loved safer custody because it was my bag. It was helping people. It was doing the good stuff.
It doesn't matter how much good stuff you do, you're still going to get slated in that position though, aren't you?
Oh yeah, because it was a very high profile position.
Well, in any prison now, safer custody, you know, that's what it's all about.
Well, when someone dies, it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
When someone takes their own life, it's your fault.
Exactly.
For whatever policies and procedures you have or haven't followed. But I used to love the safer custody office because we were such a good team. We had staff coming in. It was like a little therapeutic hub. You know, we talked to each other. It wasn't like I'm the boss and you're the staff. It was like we're a team.
But in some areas, you know, you can't do that. You have to just sort of crack on, don't you? And, you know, another thing that used to piss me off is, you can be a prison officer, anyone who's senior to you, senior officer, principal officer, governor, no matter how wrong they are, they're always right. And they will tell you that, and that used to piss me right off.
Do you know what? That was one of the sort of biggest strengths that I think I learnt was, you know them better than I do. If I'm coming on, I'm going to ask you your opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think? What would you do if you were me?
Yeah.
I'll listen to it, and I might say, yeah, I'll take a bit of that on board, or I can't do that. But do you know what? Always speak to, it's like, it's just common sense. It's just common sense. When you get rid of your pride and your ego and all the bullshit that goes along with being a senior manager, you're just a person who doesn't know everything, and you need to speak to the people that have the knowledge.
The best managers, for me, could be humble and just give a fuck, cared about staff and prisoners. I think I'm going to include, because that's what it is. Majority of incidents you will have dealt with, turned up to, you might have to make ultimately, like you said on that one in the seg with the Cat A, the final decision, but the incidents are dealt with, aren't they? It's the people who stand out for me. I never worked, I'll only use her first name, but she's a good lass, or I liked her because she always cared, Anita. Right? Yeah, as a principal officer, I never worked over her. I have no idea what she was like as a manager. However, whenever she was on site attending as the Oscar or whatever, there was an incident, she's looking, making sure everyone's all right. And that's what you need to do. A lot of them just callous, cold.
Get your paperwork done.
It was almost like, you know, you're causing me problems here. I've got to do paperwork. I could be elsewhere in the prison. And, you know, whether that's a death in custody or somebody who is rock bottom, who needs to go on a section, who's covered in claret and shite. I'm going to get off my soapbox.
And I think what sort of maybe the general public doesn't realise is that prison is just a representation of society, whether it be, you know, and you have to take, and this is my opinion, again, and I'm not in charge of the universe or in charge of the world or whatever, but you've got to take that holistic approach that we are all living within the walls. We are all spending more time with the prisoners that we work with, the staff that we work with, than I mean, I'm talking like I'm still in the job. I'm not in the job, obviously, but it's probably still in my psyche, isn't it?
Of course it will be.
But that's how we're a community. We're not us and them, we're a community.
Let me tell you, I might get this wrong. Fyodor Dostoevsky, Russian philosopher. In the front of my book, it says, I might not get it word for word, the degree of civility or whatever in society can be judged by anything in its prisons.
Yes.
Which is true.
Yeah.
It is true. So, from Strangeways, did you go back to Liverpool?
Yes, I did. So.
Why?
Because I split up with my husband.
Okay, fair dues. Fair dues.
That is, so I split up with my husband, and I was working part-time, and I needed to increase my hours, but Manchester wouldn't increase my hours. So this is where I did kind of pull on a little bit of a favour. Of a senior manager. She was the deputy governor at Liverpool. I'd worked for her before. She knew I was mustard, so she kind of pulled some I know, big myself
she knew you could do the job.
She pulled a few strings, and there was someone at
Liverpool
who wanted to go part-time as well. So they put me back to back with them, so because I think I was made surplus at Manchester, and I'd split up with my husband, so I needed to and it was kind of like coming back to Liverpool.
Strangeways you're on about.
Yeah. Oh, God, I get so confused.
Come on.
So coming back to Liverpool was like coming home for me. It was just like putting on a comfortable pair of shoes. And then I started thinking about promotion again. So I started to increase my hours, came back to full time, and they put me in offender management at Liverpool and over public protection.
Just explain what offender management is.
So offender management is like the journey, that sort of the rehabilitative, I know you don't like that word, journey that the prisoner takes from sort of entering into custody to the end. So if you're a low-level shoplifting offender, there may not be any interventions that you can deliver for them, but if you've got someone who's in for 4 years, who's in for, say, domestic violence, there is work that we can do with them. So there was a lot of work with probation.
Do they have to do it in a lot of cases?
Yes, so if it's part of their sentence plan, so if they're, say, going for parole, or they want to secure, say, for example, tag or something, they've got to prove that they've been actively engaging in things that will reduce their risk when they leave prison.
Allegedly.
But they put me in over offender management and public protection, and I just loved the work. I loved it. I just really felt like I was making a difference. It was weird, because at the time I was a victim of domestic violence myself in the relationship that I was with, and I was running the department that effectively oversaw all the people in for domestic violence. But I really felt we really did some good work around forging links with, child services, social services. We were doing what I thought was like cutting it, the frontline stuff. The best good. Yeah, saving kids, saving women. This, we were like getting the bad guys, and we were, we were the good guys. And do you know what? That work just gave me a real sense of it really fulfilled some sort of gap in me. Even though, like I said, I was going home and having the shit kicked out of me and being bloody robbed blind and all the rest of it. But and I was self-harming at that time as well. This is sort of when my mental health started to deteriorate.
What's this, about 216?
But I love my job, and I think my job kept me going for longer, but I was doing good. I know I was doing good. So I started once again to think about promotion. Even though I was going through everything that I was going through, I'm still in my head thinking about going for promotion. So I got through the abusive relationship, got rid of him, started to, again, still doing the job I loved, and we had a change of senior management at Liverpool, because Liverpool bombed on the inspector's report, so they whipped everyone out, and then a few of us were tossed a life vest and said we could stay. So I didn't think that I would, because I kept saying to him, because I'm quite forward, you know, I'm not backwards about saying what I want, and I'm saying, I want to run this department, I want to be the next grade up, I can do this, I can do that, I will, you know. And I just, you know, when you just don't trust someone that you think, you're going to get shit on here. So a national job came up for offender management in custody, the new key worker scheme. I don't know if you talked about that on any of your podcasts.
Talked about it.
I wouldn't fucking bother talking about it. The biggest waste of fucking public funds.
We'll talk about that another day.
Anyway, so that was a Band 8 position, which was working between London and home, and it was brand new. You know, I think I was doing communications and employee relations and stuff like that, but didn't have any training for it, just got thrown into it, fucking hated it, absolutely hated it, didn't like the travelling to London, really struggled working from home. At the same time, my mum got a brain tumour, so she was hospitalised, or they discovered a brain tumour, should I say. It didn't just fucking grow overnight. So again, really stressful life period, really unhappy in the job that I was doing. And I didn't last very long doing that one, because it just wasn't for me. And again, then I pulled on some strings, because they have to give you a position. And that's when I ended up at Hindley. And I ended up at Hindley, which is like 5 miles from my house. Loved the senior management team there. Again, loved the jail, loved the people, was given a great job. Got temporary promoted there as well. So, and things were going great. It was high pressured and it was stressful. And I do think that was exacerbating my mental health that had been ongoing since 2016. And then I lost the plot there. But do you know what? I think one of the reasons that I eventually had the mental collapse is because I felt I could do there. You couldn't at Liverpool because you had to put a front on. Whereas there, I felt I'm finding a place where people will understand. People
really, that's
people actually care about me. People, I mean, I couldn't help the fact that I had such a dramatic, but I didn't feel guilty for going off sick. I didn't feel, because I thought, no, I'm ill.
It weighs on you, that job, doesn't it? It weighs on you. You feel like you're letting people down when you're on the sick. It's terrible.
All that, but I felt, do you know what? Actually, I'm with a group of managers now that care and that are not going to be like, oh fucking hell, she's gone off sick. That would be, and obviously I'd met David at the time as well, who was like my great protector and knight in shining armour. So between him and working in a place where I felt that I could be myself and let myself go, I then just went.
And was there no coming back from that at that time?
No. And it's weird. I said, so I tried to take my own life in April 2019. So that's when I went sick. And I never ever went back to work after that. And I grieved for work. It was like grieving a relationship. And it's like, even though, because it had given me such a sense of self, such a sense of purpose, it had given me some great relationships and just having a laugh. I forgot, I didn't fucking smile or laugh for about 2 years, and I forgot how to, you know.
Well, I think it brings home what you said, you know, your ups and downs in your career depended on management teams and that.
Definitely. Who you were working with, who you were working for, who was working for you. It's not the prisoners.
That were my career at Strangeways, you know, K-Wing, amazing, under Bertie Bassett, management change weren't the same. Healthcare went on at a hard time, and then, you know, March 2015, that fateful day, 1st of March, when all the shit hit the fan, workforce modernisation and benchmarking, it changed healthcare, and I probably fell out of love with the job. I went to A-Wing, I was only on there 3 weeks, I just found it boring. You know, like you said, like a Wymott, I know it was only 3 weeks, but I was just getting more and more.
No, I think sort of my experience of that, of working as a Band 8 in London, kind of started to tarnish my viewpoint. And as much as I loved Hindley, I had so much going on in my head, and it's like years of mental illness just came crashing in one big swoop. And like I say, it was hard because I had to get over the guilt of not being at work.
Yep.
I had to get over the fact that I had to go through all the obviously medical retirement stuff. I had to get over the fact that I used to say to David, I'm a nobody now. I used to be a somebody. And he went, no, you're you are you. And I went, but who am I? I didn't know who I was outside of being a mum, outside of work. My whole identity was tied in with being a governor.
Well, you see, I've got my thoughts on that. I mean, you said before that, you know, that was a front or whatever. That's just who you were. You know, the borderline personality, or soon to be changed to ADHD or whatever is going on. You know what I'm saying? That's who you were as a governor. Just empathy. The fact that you'd listen to people, that you had credibility or whatever, and just caring about people, and being a lass, not trying to be a lad. Which I will never forget you saying that now, because it puts everything in perspective. And when I look at people, I think, you were trying to be a lad. You were trying to be a lad.
Embrace your femininity. I mean, obviously,
just be your fucking self. Fuck's sake.
I mean, and if you are a kind, nurturing, caring, if you're not, that's fine. Don't pretend to be that way. No. And prisoners will see through it. All they have all day is to observe your behaviour and see. They see you, not what you want to fucking portray. They see you.
Correct.
And if you are not true or genuine, but like I say, there is nothing wrong with. Oh God, I remember once, and you'll probably cringe at this. I remember an incident in the Seg at Style, and I cried. I got upset and I cried. And a female manager and a male governor went, "Is it that time of the month?" So basically,
was it?
It fucking wasn't. And even if it was, it shouldn't fucking matter. I was still upset by this incident. But it's like, what the fuck has that got to do with it?
If you've got humanity and empathy, you can't help sometimes get upset, obviously.
But no, it's because it was that time of the month, and I felt like fucking ripping this guy's head off and shitting down his neck, because I'm like, you fucking arsehole.
Do you know what? I think that's a great place to stop, because I've got other things to do today, and we could talk. Do you know what? A lot of things we will touch on again. We'll get back together. Listen, guys, if you've got any questions for Ollie or me, or things you'd like us to discuss now in more depth, things that are going on, in the comments, and we'll get back together.
Yeah. And can I just say, I just really appreciate all the comments and love that I've had from people. I don't think I've seen anything negative, and I just want to say that I'm really humbled and really pleased that I've maybe in some small way continued to help people, because that makes me feel good. Love you.
Yep, we'll back up soon. Cheers, guys. Thanks for coming.
See you soon.
I'll see